Well, hello again, it's Trudy here from Hot Patterns, welcoming you to our second sew-along. If you've never done a sew-along, let me quickly explain to you what that is. A sew-along is really where we take one of our patterns and we go through all the stages with you and we sew it and make it on camera, and we take it piece by piece, step by step, so you can see exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, and often I'll tell you why we're doing it, obviously if it's relevant. So for this one we are going to make a knit pant. It's actually a sweat pant. It's our athleisure Sunday morning sweatpants. Rather gorgeous style, it has to be said. And the reason we chose to do a knit pant is because a lot of sewers can get intimidated at the idea of making and fitting a pant, especially in a woven fabric, especially with things like a fitted waistband and a fly and all that good stuff. So we thought we'd start with, for a sew-along pant, we'd do a nice simple sweat pant, but these do have some very groovy details which we'll go through with you shortly. So for our sew-along, I have all my equipment. I have my pattern, I have my fabric, I have my drink of water with a straw, obviously, the hateful reading glasses, and a tape measure in here in case I need it, which I probably will. So let us start then. This is part one, and in part one we are going to be going through the design analysis, checking out the details of the pattern. We're going to be looking at our fabric, how we go about choosing those, and discussing things like stitches, what we're going to use with the needles, all the kind of stitch methods we can use, and so on. So let's start. So we're going to start with a real basic design analysis, and it's always a good idea before you start a sewing project to have a really close look at the envelope or the sketch or all the information you can, because it's going to tell you an awful lot and it's stuff that you could really do with knowing. So let's have a proper look. On the front here you will see the fashion sketch. Fashion sketch is very important because it's what makes you look at it and think, oh yes, I could look like really good in that, so I might get that. But it's not really the most important sketch for you to see. The most important sketches for you to look at are these, the black and white line drawings. Those are called the technical flats, and you normally have a front and a back view, and that's exactly what you've got here. And if you have a proper look at them, you will see a number of things. For instance, patch pockets, elasticated waist, there's top stitching, which is pretty much always optional but pretty much always lovely, and a deep hem, and it's got other bits and pieces, and you see you've got a back yoke as well. So it's really useful for you to see those technical flats so you can see all the details. But also down here we have a written description, and it will tell you where the waist sits, that the legs are cropped and so on. So look at the flat drawings, read the description, and you get a very good idea of exactly what you're going to be making. The other things, of course, to look at are on the back here. At the very top, I should show you this, the very top we have the fabric requirements, and this one just requires fabric and a little elastic, enough elastic to go around your waist comfortably. But I've said on here that it needs to be soft elastic. It really does. It needs to be, that kind of lingerie type elastic. When you pull it, it really has a lot of give, and I'll come to that in part 2 or maybe even part 3, but trust me, soft elastic is the way you want to be with this one. We also have our measurement charts, which I'll come to in a moment, and it gives you your skill level, and this one is for an advanced beginner. The truth is, even if you had only made, I don't know, maybe an apron or something, you can make this. There's no zippers, there's no buttons. Really, I put advanced beginner because there's a little bit of top stitching, but that's all. It's really a very simple pant to make, I promise. So now you've done your design analysis, it's time to consider what fabric you're going to use. Now, here is the fabric that I'm going to use to make our pant in. I've actually got a great big pile of this fabric. There's actually 8 yards here. We don't need 8 yards for a pair of pants, just so we're clear. But I just bought a lump of this because it's really nice stuff. Now, this particular fabric is called French Terry, which means that it really feels, I would say it's like a very lightweight sweatshirting or a heavyweight t-shirting. Does that make sense? And on the back, it's got like a looped back, like a flat toweling. I will bring the camera in shortly and show you this really close up. However, the reason I'm telling you about this fabric is this. Normally on our tutorials and for our last sew along, I don't normally recommend a particular fabric. I won't say to you, go and get this because it'll work, mainly because when I buy fabrics, I'm buying a vintage cut or a sample cut, and I can't say to you, in all honesty, oh yeah, they'll still have some, because they normally won't. However, this one I have sourced from a company called stylishfabric.com. All the information will be in the box below this video. And it's really, really lovely. And the thing that really attracted me to it was, first of all, it has lots of colours. It comes in loads of colours. It has some lycra in it, so nice and stretchy. Not too stretchy, but nice and stretchy. And they have consistency of supply. This is one of their stock fabrics. They have it pretty much all the time. I'm not sure how long they'll have it for. You know, if you're watching this in 20 years time, who knows, but for now they've certainly got it in, and it's a really beautiful fabric, and I recommend it if you're looking for a lighter weight sweatshirting. So I'm going to be doing it in this colour. They call it a two-tone black. It's like a heathered charcoal. Comes in lots of other colours though, which is one of the reasons I really, really like it. And when I recommend to you fabrics, or I sometimes recommend to you interfacing, I want to make it very, very clear I only recommend them to you because I use them and because I think they're brilliant. I don't get any kind of kickbacks or any kind of treats or anything for saying so. I will only recommend to you something that I truly believe is going to work really well for you, because otherwise why would I do it? So this is definitely a fabric that I can recommend to you. It's going to work out beautifully. I've already made a couple of pieces in this, and it sews up really nicely and it washes really well. It's just lovely. So this is the French terry. You can get French terry in other places too, but this is just one of the nicest qualities I've seen. So a French terry is good because it's not too thick. It's got, that kind of flattened loop on the back. You could of course go heavier with this. You could go for, let's see, you could go for a fleece. That's really quite heavy. You could go for a fleece back sweatshirting, and you could go lighter too. You could go for a heavier t-shirting, or even like a silky jersey if you wanted. I mean, that could be quite lovely. One thing you need to bear in mind is that this particular style is, it's quite a slim cut sweatpant. It's not baggy at all. It's kind of just, it's not tight, but it's just, it's a slim cut. So bear that in mind when you're choosing your fabric. If you wanted to choose a heavier, bulkier fabric like a fleece or a fleece-backed sweatshirting, you might consider cutting up one size. That's just, you might want to think about that. So that's the fabric I'll be using. Obviously that's the pattern I'll be using, but I'm really pleased with this French terry. I think it's really good. So it's a good starter fabric for you to just see how it comes out. And also, if you're smart, you get enough to do a hoodie or a top to go with it. You've got yourself a really, really cool kind of lounging around the house suit. Now, I'm not sure if you can see all the detail of this because the sun's kind of beating in quite vigorously today, but this is the right side of the French terry, and this, if I flip it over, is the loop side. They're not really loopy loops, they're kind of flat, so let me just zoom in and see if I can show you better. Yes, there we go. Okay, you see those are not really what you would call kind of loops, they're just more flat, but that's what it's called, a loop back. But it's got a really nice face, that nice kind of two-tone, heathered look, and then it's got a nice loop on the back. So now we're going to come to measurements. You've got to take your measurements for every garment you're going to make. You need to know what size you're going to be. Now, as I said to you before, size charts on the back of the envelope. And for these ones, because they are a knit pant and because they are a lot more forgiving than a woven pant would be, I'm going to say that really, you only need two measurements to start with, and that's your waist circumference and your hip circumference. Now, we always work out that the hip is 8 inches or 20 centimetres below your waist. So that's roughly where you should measure it. Although it has to be said, if you're blessed with very generous hips or very generous thighs, then and that's big, that's lower or higher than 8 inches, go by that. Go by your biggest measurement and choose the size that corresponds with your biggest measurement. It's unlikely that you're going to have, like a size 6 waist and a size 18 hip. It can happen, but it's unlikely. So really go by your biggest size. You can, of course, when you're making these, kind of tweak them as you go. Yes, I would definitely make a muslin for these or a test garment, mainly because you're going to make a lot of them, I guarantee it, because it's such a nice style. But really, to start with, go buy the biggest size that will work for you. So, in a moment I'm going to open the envelope and we're going to pull out the pattern and have a look. But before I do that, I wanted to briefly say to you that when you come to sew knits, you really need to be using the correct needles. The correct needles for this are either a jersey or a ballpoint needle. You can get those in any fabric store or online, but you really need to do that. You can do it with a normal needle, but it's going to be harder. You're not going to get such a good result. And when we do the sewing on this, I will show you, I'm going to do a couple of swatches for you with some different seam treatments, and you'll see how it works. But if you're using a standard machine, just a forwards and backwards machine, you want to use a narrow but long zigzag. This is so it'll still give it a little bit of stretch and it'll all be good. If you're using an overlocker, then obviously use an overlocker and you're all good. So now we've quickly discussed needles, jersey or ballpoint, got to remember that. Let's have a quick look at our pattern. Now all our patterns are printed on this rather lovely and rather sturdy white paper. So it's not see-through at all. This one is on 2 sheets. Oh, let's open it. And I'll quickly go through with you the pieces. Oh, and I'll rip it as well, never mind. That's why I've got some scotch tape. Okay, you'll always find that we have our instructions in a box on here. So you're going to cut those out and keep them. And then you have your back, your leg back. You have your back yoke, and I know these shapes look really odd. If you can see them on camera, the shapes look really, really, really weird because you've got a back yoke that's insetted into it, and also the side seams go round to the front, so it's just a bit unusual. And you've got this leg insert too. So we've got back, leg insert, and yoke on that one. And then if I get rid of this one here, I've managed to rip through both sheets. How clever of me. Never mind. Okay, on this one we have a very, very narrow front leg and the waistband. Now the front leg is narrow because, and our patch pocket of course. Our front leg is narrow because, as I just said, the side seam comes round to the front of the leg. So when you get the pieces out and you look at them and you go, oh, they look really odd, don't be alarmed. They are supposed to look that odd. So that's our basic pieces. There's not that many of them. You can see. In our next part of our sew along, we are going to be laying out the pieces, and you'll see how easy it is to lay out because nothing's cut on the fold. It's all, all cut as a pair. It's really, really easy to do. So we'll be doing that next one. But for now, you can see all you've got is a back leg, a front leg, a back yoke, a leg insert, a patch pocket, and a waistband. 6 pieces to cut out. Really hardly any for a pant. That's really, really nice. So not too big of a trauma when it comes to cutting out. Let's just get this out of the way. Whoop. Big pattern sheet, that's all I can say. Okay, so just a quick refresher for you. Here's the style we're doing, our rather beautiful athleisure Sunday morning sweatpants. We are making it in this fabulous French terry, which isn't too stretchy but not unstretchy and is a really nice weight. We are going to use a jersey or a ballpoint needle, and we are going to cut the size that corresponds to the biggest part of us, be that the hips or be that the waist. We don't mind, and we're going to cut those out. So when we come back next time for part 2, what you will see is all the pieces cut out, and I'll show you how to lay it all up. And I will also show you how to do different seam treatments on it, and and we'll put a few pieces together. Next time we're going to put together the waistband, and we're going to prepare the pockets. It's kind of key. It's kind of really important for us to do so. So that's it. That's the first part of our sew along for our rather lovely athleisure Sunday morning sweatpants. Hope it's been useful for you, and I suggest you gather all your supplies for next time when we actually get